The galaxy is a colorful place, they said. Full of strange wonders and endless possibilities, they said. What they didn't say was that it smells like a mix of alien BO and a family of skunks on a hot summer's day. Captain Jax Veridian stood in the middle of the galactic arena, trying to ignore the olfactory assault. "Well," he grumbled, "this is where dreams come to die." Jax wasn't new to this kind of gig. He'd been a mercenary since he could lift a blaster and probably before he should have been allowed to. His team, a ragtag bunch of misfits and misanthropes, stood by his side, looking as unimpressed as he felt. To his left, Ada, a sharpshooter with the patience of a saint and the mouth of a sailor, was checking her rifle. "I thought the arena was supposed to be clean," she muttered. "Should have brought a gas mask." On his right, Boomer, the demolitions expert, grinned like a maniac. He had the kind of smile that made you wonder if he was about to offer you a drink or blow you up. I kinda like it," Boomer said, taking a deep breath. "Reminds me of home." "Boomer," Jax said, "your home was a landfill." "Exactly," Boomer shot back, his grin widening. The Xyler, the enigmatic aliens running this whole circus, appeared on a hovering screen above them. They were all angles and shadows, like someone had gotten bored halfway through sculpting a proper being. The Xyler had a reputation for their twisted games, and this one was no exception. "Humans," the alien voice buzzed through a cheap speaker, "welcome to the survival games. Your challenge is simple: survive while consuming our specially engineered food." "Let me guess," Ada said. "The food tastes like regret." Jax snorted. "More like despair with a side of existential crisis." The Xyler continued, oblivious or indifferent to the sarcasm. "This food induces a profound sense of hopelessness in most species. But humans, well, we are curious to see your reaction." "Great," Jax said. "I'm a lab rat on Prozac." The alien voice crackled again. "The game begins now." Jax turned to his team. "All right, folks, keep your wits about you. Remember, we're not here for a 5-star meal. We're here to survive and get paid. And maybe blow something up," Boomer added hopefully. The arena was a bizarre landscape, like a playground designed by a sadist with a flair for the dramatic. Iron structures twisted and turned, casting long shadows that danced across the ground like sinister marionettes. "Remember," Jax said, "the Xyler are watching. They love a good spectacle, so let's not disappoint." "Right," Ada replied, peering through the scope of her rifle. Nothing says spectacle like a team of humans losing their minds over some dodgy alien chow. Their first encounter with the food was anticlimactic. Bland cubes of a sickly green hue sitting inconspicuously on a metal tray. Boomer poked at it with a cautious finger. "Looks like snot," he observed. "Tastes worse than it looks," Jax warned. "Trust me, I've been through this before." Ada raised an eyebrow. "Ever the intrepid explorer, huh? More like experienced guinea pig," Jax replied with a wry smile. With a collective grimace, they each picked up a cube and swallowed it down. The effect was almost immediate. A wave of despair washed over them as if someone had turned off the universe's light switch. Jax felt it first, a dull ache in his chest, like an old friend come to visit. "Well, this is unpleasant," Ada remarked, her usual sarcasm dulled. Boomer looked like he was trying to fight off a sneeze. "It's like a funeral in my mouth," he said, his voice cracking halfway through. Jax clenched his fists, riding out the wave. "Focus," he barked. "It's just chemicals, it'll pass." The Xyler, their holographic faces hovering above, watched with keen interest. "Fascinating," the alien voice mused. "Humans exhibit a remarkable resistance." "Remarkable is one word for it," Ada shot back, shaking off the gloom. "I'd have gone with stubborn or stupid." Jax looked around at his team, rallying as best they could. "We've got this," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "We've faced worse." And they had. The galaxy was full of things trying to kill you. This was just another Tuesday. The arena's landscape shifted as they moved, presenting new challenges at every turn. Spiked pits, shifting sands, and occasional bursts of flame that seemed more theatrical than deadly. "It's like an intergalactic obstacle course," Ada noted. "Yeah," Boomer agreed, "run by a pyromaniac." As they navigated the hazards, the food-induced despair lingered, a constant whisper in the back of their minds. It was like trying to think with a migraine or a really persistent ex. They reached the arena center, a grand stage where the Xylar awaited, their holographic images flickering like faulty neon signs. "Congratulations," the alien voice intoned. "You have survived the first phase." "If this is survived, I hate to see thriving," Ada quipped, wiping sweat from her brow. "What happens next?" Jax demanded, keeping his posture steady. The Xylar's answer was predictably cryptic. "The next phase will test your adaptability. Prepare yourselves." Jax nodded, turning to his team. "All right, you heard the bug-eyed freaks. Let's get ready." Boomer was already rummaging through his backpack, pulling out various explosives with the glee of a kid at Christmas. "Adaptability my middle name," he declared. "Pretty sure it's danger," Ada corrected. "Same difference," Boomer shrugged, tucking a grenade into his belt. Jax couldn't help but chuckle. "You know, it's times like these I almost feel sorry for the aliens." "Almost?" Ada asked, her lips twitching into a rare smile. "Almost," Jax confirmed. "But then I remember they're watching us like we're some kind of reality TV." As the second phase of the games loomed, Jax felt a familiar resolve settle over him. They were humans, after all. Stubborn, irreverent, and damn hard to kill. The arena buzzed with anticipation, the Xylar eager to see what the mercenaries would do next. Jax grinned to himself, a dark, determined grin. "Let's give them a show they'll never forget." The team moved forward, ready for whatever fresh hell awaited them. The Xylar might have had the upper hand, but Jax knew one thing for sure. Humans always had a way of surprising you, and he planned on keeping it that way. Jax Veridian scanned the arena with a grimace that could have curdled milk. The Xylar's idea of a good time was once again proving that misery was the universe's most abundant resource. If optimism was a currency, this place would have been bankrupt centuries ago. Ada, ever the ray of sunshine, nudged him. "Think they'll throw us a parade when we win?" "I doubt they even know what a parade is," Jax replied. "Might settle for a group funeral." Boomer was busy stuffing explosives into his pockets, humming a tune that sounded suspiciously like a dirge. "Don't worry, boss. We'll make it a blast." "Sure, Boomer," Jax sighed. "Just remember we're the ones on the blast radius." As the team regrouped, Tessa Flux, the squad's tech specialist, approached them, fiddling with a device that looked like it might explode at any moment. Her expression was a mix of annoyance and genius-level concentration, the kind you usually found in mad scientists or cats plotting world domination. "Got something for us, Tessa?" Jax asked, hoping it wouldn't involve more alien cuisine. Tessa shrugged. "Well, if you call a device that reads the molecular composition of despair a something, then yeah. Hell, I'd call that a miracle right now," Ada said, peering over Tessa's shoulder. "What's it say?" "That we're screwed," Tessa replied dryly. "The food's got nanites specifically designed to mess with neurochemistry. They don't just make you feel hopeless. They aim to make you give up." Boomer laughed because of course he did. "Good thing we never start with hope, eh?" "But why?" Jax mused aloud, mostly to keep his own mind from spiraling into the abyss. "What do the Xylar gain from our despair?" "Entertainment," Rincos chimed in, the team strategist and the only one who seemed to enjoy the pastimes of chess and Russian roulette equally. "They find it fascinating. Like watching a soap opera where everyone's having a breakdown." "Great," Ada said. "We're cosmic Kardashians." Jax shook his head, trying to clear the fog of despair from settling too deeply into his bones. "So how do we fight it?" Tessa glanced at her device, then at the team. "We need a counter, something to scramble the nanite signals. Otherwise we'll be their puppets." "Can't we just blow him up?" Boomer suggested, ever the problem solver. "Only if you want your brains to turn to mush," Tessa replied, her tone as sharp as a buzzsaw. "We need precision, not pyrotechnics." "Precision's boring," Boomer grumbled, but he started unpacking his gear all the same. Jax rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of the Xylar's sick game pressing down. "All right, Flux, how long do you need?" Couple yours, Tessa said, if you keep Boomer from trying to impress me with his fireworks. I make no promises, Jax replied, half smiling despite it all. He turned to Rin. What's our next step? Rin's eyes scanned the arena, her mind clearly calculating odds in a way only she could. We need to keep moving. The despair's worse when you're standing still. Like a bad song on repeat, Ada groaned. No kidding. I swear I can hear the universe playing the world's tiniest violin. Jax nodded, his resolve hardening. All right, let's hustle. We find a safe spot for Tessa to work her magic, and we keep the Xyler entertained by not dying. The team moved with practiced efficiency, each step an act of defiance against the oppressive weight trying to bear down on them. The landscape continued its sadistic dance, shifting and changing like it was trying to impress its alien overlords. Betcha they're taking bets on how long we last, Ada said, her voice echoing Jax's earlier musings. Let's prove him wrong, Jax replied. Might as well make some poor bastard lose his shirt. They found temporary refuge behind a series of jagged rocks that looked like they'd been designed by a Gothic architect with too much free time. Tessa set up her equipment, her fingers flying over the controls with the kind of grace you'd expect from a pianist, not someone dealing with alien tech. Boomer set up a perimeter with his explosives, whistling to himself as he went. At least we'll go out with a bang, he said cheerfully. Boomer, your optimism is contagious, Ada said wryly. Now please keep it to yourself. Just doing my part, Boomer replied, flashing his trademark grin. Jax settled down next to Rin, watching Tessa work. Think she's got it? Rin pondered for a moment, then nodded. If anyone can outsmart a bunch of alien sadists, it's Tessa. You know what they say, Jax replied. Never underestimate the power of human stubbornness. If only it were a currency, Rin mused. We'd be rich. Or dead, Jax said, shrugging. But hey, that's life in the galaxy, right? As the minutes ticked by, the oppressive air seemed to thicken, the effects of the food lingering like a bad smell. The Xyler watched from above, their hovering screens flickering like storm clouds, each pulse a reminder of their oversight. Boomer was the first to break the tension. You think the Xyler ever get bored of this, watching us run around like headless chickens? Probably, Ada replied. But they are aliens. Who knows what they find exciting? Maybe this is their idea of a cooking show. Hope they're not expecting a Michelin star, Jax interjected. I'd settle for not dying. Tessa's voice cut through the banter, sharp and focused. I think I've got something. The team turned towards her, Jax feeling a rare sliver of hope, though he quickly squashed it like an inconvenient bug. Hope was for the naive, and they were anything but. All right, Tessa continued, holding up a small device that hummed with potential. This should disrupt the nanite signals. It'll need to be close to your neural pathways to work. Great, Ada said, eyeing the device with skepticism. Just what I always wanted, a brain implant. Jax grabbed the device, his expression serious. If it means keeping our minds our own, I'll take it. Tessa distributed the devices, each member attaching it just below their ear. The hum was more of a gentle buzz, a reassurance that they were still in control. Feel anything? Rin asked, her eyes flicking between the team. Like a hangover minus the fun part, Boomer said, adjusting his device. But better than before. Jax smirked, feeling the fog in his mind lift slightly. All right, team, let's give the Xyler a show. The arena seemed to sense their renewed vigor, ramping up the challenges with a sadistic kind of joy. Spikes erupted from the ground, flames danced like deranged ballerinas, and the air buzzed with static. Someone should tell them subtleties in art, Ada quipped, her rifle at the ready. Maybe they skipped that class, Jax replied, dodging a particularly aggressive flame jet. They pushed forward, their steps more confident, each obstacle met with determination that bordered on reckless. But that was the human way, staring death in the face and telling it to take a hike. Think they're watching with popcorn? Boomer asked, detonating a charge to clear a path. Probably, Rin said. But I doubt they've got butter. The Xyler screens pulsed, the alien voices murmuring in what Jax assumed was either confusion or amusement. Probably both. The humans were proving to be less predictable than the Xylar anticipated. Jax led the team to the next checkpoint, a platform surrounded by what looked like an electrified moat. Let's keep moving. We're not done yet. As they traversed the platform, the despair still lingered at the edges of their minds, but Tessa's devices held it at bay. The Xylar's game was far from over, but the humans were no longer its pawns. "Hey, Tessa," Ada called out. "How long you think these gizmos'll last?" "Long enough," Tessa replied, her confidence unwavering. "Just keep moving." "Guess we're all running on borrowed time," Jax said, not for the first time contemplating the absurdity of their situation. "Let's hope we don't run out of credit." The arena's atmosphere grew thicker, as if the Xylar were trying to smother them with the sheer weight of their presence. But Jax and his team pressed on, each step a defiant shout into the void. Jax surveyed the arena, his mind sharpening with each passing moment. They were here to survive, to beat the odds, to show the Xylar that humans weren't just predictable blobs of flesh. "All right, team," Jax said, a grin cracking his serious demeanor. "Time to show them what we're made of." "Mostly bad decisions and caffeine," Ada replied, her own grin matching his. "But hey, it's gotten us this far," Boomer added, prepping another charge. "Let's keep it going," Rin said, leading them forward. As they moved, Jax felt an odd sense of camaraderie with his team. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving in the only way humans could, by laughing in the face of adversity and refusing to back down. The Xylar watched, their interest piqued by these strange, stubborn creatures who refused to play by the rules. But Jax didn't care. They were doing what they did best, making the impossible possible, one sarcastic comment at a time. The game wasn't over, not by a long shot. But with their wits about them and a newfound determination, Jax knew one thing for sure: they were going to give the Xylar a run for their money. And maybe, just maybe, they'd all make it out alive. Or at least die trying. The galactic arena reeked of desperation, blood, and something far worse, like an old gym sock stuck in a microwave. Jax and his team hustled through the chaos, the oppressive stench hanging in the air like an unwelcome guest. "Just another day in paradise," Jax muttered, eyeing the alien competitors scattered around them, each species looking more desperate than the last. The Xylar's little game was proving to be survival of the cynically fittest. "Got any bright ideas?" Ada asked, sidestepping a crater that smelled suspiciously like rotten eggs. "Not die," Jax suggested, which was usually the plan. "Revolutionary," Tessa chimed in, still fussing with her tech. The landscape shifted again, the ground rumbling underfoot like it was laughing at them. Or maybe it was hungry, hard to tell with alien designs. Boomer pointed to a group of particularly grotesque competitors, their skin a lovely shade of "I regret looking." "Think they're having fun," he snorted. "Looks like they've eaten the Xylar's despair stew one too many times." "Or someone else's," Rin added dryly as she adjusted her gear, always the strategist, always 3 steps ahead and 2 moves sideways. "Probably tastes like chicken," Ada quipped, keeping her rifle ready. Jax nodded towards the alien pack. "Let's try not to end up on the menu." As if on cue, the competitors turned their attention towards them, eyes glowing with a mixture of hunger and madness. Jax couldn't blame them really. Hunger does things to the brain like eat it from the inside. "Here they come," Tessa warned, her voice as calm as someone announcing a weather forecast. "Guess we're the main course," Boomer joked, unholstering his blaster. "Hope they choke," Ada said, aiming carefully. It was a dance of desperation, awkward and brutally efficient. The other species lunged forward, movements erratic as if half-mad from the Xylar's twisted culinary offerings. "Time to show him what human cuisine's really like," Jax said, firing off a shot that dropped one of the competitors before it got too close. Rin coordinated their movements, issuing orders with the calm precision of a surgeon who never really read the manual. "Stay together. Don't let them flank us." "Flank me and I'll turn them into a kebab," Boomer grumbled, tossing a small explosive that sent one alien scuttling with a new, smoldering hairstyle. Ada dropped another with a well-placed shot. Kebab's not on the menu today, Boomer. The chaos swirled around them, a maelstrom of bad decisions and even worse timing. Jax kept firing, the repetitive recoil of his weapon almost therapeutic. Ever feel like we're in one of those nature documentaries? Ada shouted over the noise. Except we're the prey. Yeah, except those usually end with a moral, Jax replied, ducking a wild swing from an alien that looked like it had crawled out of someone's nightmare. Guess yours is don't get eaten, Boomer said, tossing another explosive for good measure. The dust settled just enough for Jax's team to regroup, the alien pack retreating, licking their wounds and probably their pride. Nice work, team, Rin said, surveying the carnage with the eye of a chess player savoring checkmate. You think the Xylar are impressed? Ada asked, wiping sweat from her brow. Or just taking notes for next time? Who cares? Jax replied, scanning the horizon. As long as it keeps us alive. They moved on, the arena offering no respite and even less mercy. The air buzzed with the electric hum of the hovering screens, the Xylar's ever-watchful presence a constant companion. Think they are rooting for us? Boomer wondered aloud, the question more rhetorical than anything else. Probably rooting for us to fail spectacularly, Tessa said, her eyes on her device, which was thankfully still functioning. Yeah, but joke's on them, Jax said with a wry smile. We're experts at failing with style. The terrain shifted again, the arena's sadistic glee never-ending. Spikes, flames, and things that should never be named all lurked, waiting to catch a human unaware. Ever feel like we're walking through a haunted house that doesn't know when to quit? Ada asked, her voice a mix of humor and exasperation. Yeah, but where's the candy? Boomer replied, eyeing a particularly nasty set of spikes. Probably poisoned, Rin said, leading them through another maze of obstacles, her mind calculating probabilities like she was counting cards in a rigged casino. As they pushed forward, the effects of the Xylar's despair stew lingered, clawing at the edges of their minds like an unwanted houseguest. But Tessa's devices held the worst of it at bay, turning the mind-numbing fog into more of a light drizzle. Still with us, Tessa? Jax asked, keeping his eyes on the surroundings. Just barely, Tessa replied, her fingers dancing over her tech like a pianist at a particularly grim recital. Hey, we got this, Ada said, injecting a bit of optimism into the mix like a shot of adrenaline. Yeah, we do, Jax agreed, though he wasn't sure if he believed it. A flash of movement caught Jax's eye, a group of competitors not unlike themselves fighting their own battle against the arena's whims. They were aliens, sure, but their plight was all too familiar. They're not gonna make it, Boomer said, never one to sugarcoat the obvious. Not with that attitude, Ada replied, though even her optimism had its limits. The alien group fell one by one, a testament to the Xylar's twisted game, a reminder that survival was a privilege, not a right. Guess it's just us, Jax said, a grim reminder of their own mortality. On the bright side, less competition, Rin said, though her tone was anything but cheerful. Yeah, and more despair stew for us, Boomer added with a grimace. Can't wait, Tessa muttered, still focused on her device. The arena continued its relentless march, the landscape shifting and twisting like it was trying to be the galaxy's worst art exhibit. Think we can sell tickets to this? Ada asked, her voice a mix of fatigue and sarcasm. Only if we include a waiver, Jax replied, dodging a particularly nasty spike trap. As they pressed on, the tension hung heavy, like a bad smell you couldn't quite shake. The Xylar watched, their screens flickering with an alien amusement that was both unsettling and infuriating. Hey, Rin, Boomer called out, what's the plan if we run into more friends? Same as before, Rin replied, her eyes scanning the horizon for any potential threats. Stay alive and hope they're having a worse day than us. Solid plan, Jax said, though he knew it was more about luck than strategy. Hey, it's gotten us this far, Ada added, though even she seemed to be running on fumes. The path forward was as uncertain as the Xylar's next move, each step a gamble in a game where the odds were decidedly not in their favor. "At least we're not alone," Jax said, though it was as much for his own reassurance as the team's. "Yeah," Boomer agreed. "Misery loves company, right? Especially when it's armed," Ada quipped, her rifle a constant companion. The arena's challenge was far from over, but Jax and his team pressed on, each step a defiant act against the Xyler's twisted sense of entertainment. "Think this is the Xyler's idea of fun?" Tessa asked, fiddling with her device as if it were a particularly stubborn puzzle. "Only if they are sadists," Jax replied, which was probably a safe bet. The hover screens flickered above, a reminder that every move was being watched, every failure catalogued for some alien's viewing pleasure. "Maybe we should charge them for the show," Ada suggested, half serious. "Yeah, but who'd collect the fee?" Boomer replied, never missing a beat. As the team moved through the ever-changing landscape, the weight of the situation remained a constant companion, gnawing at the edges of sanity like a persistent itch. "Think the Xyler ever get tired of watching us blunder around?" Ada wondered aloud, a question that was as much wishful thinking as anything else. "Doubt it," Rin replied, her mind always calculating, always strategizing. "We're probably the highest-rated show they've got." "Well, I hope they're enjoying it," Jax said, his voice tinged with a mix of defiance and fatigue. The arena stretched out before them, an endless expanse of danger and despair, but Jax and his team pressed on, each step a defiant stand against the odds. "We've got this," Jax said, though he knew it was as much for himself as the others. "Damn right," Ada replied, her grip on her rifle never wavering. The arena was a nightmare come to life, but as long as they had each other, Jax knew they stood a chance. Maybe it wasn't much, but it was enough. For now. Tessa stood hunched over her device as if it were a stubborn child refusing to eat its vegetables. Her fingers danced over the controls, turning the mind-numbing fog of despair into less of a soul-crushing downpour and more of a persistent drizzle. "I've got a theory," she announced, her voice barely audible over the ambient chaos of the arena. "Does it involve us not dying?" Boomer asked, shaking his blaster like it was a can of hairspray. "Sort of," Tessa replied, eyes fixed on her screen. "I think I can counteract the Xyler's despair stew with a boost of human emotions, specifically joy." Ada let out a short laugh. "Joy, in this place. You got a secret stash of kittens and rainbows." "Yeah, Tessa," Jax interjected. "Did you pack happiness in your carry-on?" Tessa ignored the sarcasm. "If I can rewire the nanites, channel a bit of human emotional energy, it might just give us an edge." "Great," Rin said dryly. "Next you'll tell us to hold hands and sing Kumbaya." "Hey, if it works," Tessa shrugged. "I'm not above suggestions from cheesy campfire songs." Jax looked at his team, each worn and weary but somehow still standing. "All right, let's humor her." "What's the plan?" Tessa fiddled with her gadget, a contraption of wires and beeping lights that looked like it belonged in a mad scientist's toolbox. "We need to find some way to stimulate joy. Laughter works, music, even memories. Anything you can think of." "Boomer's jokes enough for you?" Ada asked, raising an eyebrow. "Hey, I'm hilarious," Boomer retorted, a mock pout on his face. "Just not in a save-the-world way," Jax sighed. "Guess it's time to put on a comedy show then. And while we're at it, let's not get killed by the welcoming committee." As if on cue, a group of alien competitors slunk into view, their intentions as clear as the mud they seemed to have crawled out of. These weren't the friendly, let's have a chat over coffee types, more the kind who'd invite you over for dinner and serve you as the main course. "Lovely," Boomer muttered, his blaster already leveling at the newcomers. "Here to borrow a cup of sugar or just our lives." "Keep your blaster ready," Jax ordered, not that anyone needed reminding. "Guess the entertainment's about to start," Ada commented, already sighting down her rifle. "Let's make it a show to remember," Rin added, her mind already calculating their defensive positions like a seasoned general at a disastrously organized picnic. The aliens approached with the casual menace of lone sharks at a debtor's doorstep. They had the look of creatures more at home in dark alleys than open arenas, their intent as subtle as a hammer to the skull. "Time for a little sabotage," one of them hissed, voice like nails on a chalkboard. "Yeah, well, time for you to get lost," Jax shot back, aiming his weapon with no small amount of enthusiasm. And just like that, the air filled with noise, the kind that was less pleasant symphony and more dying cat orchestra. Blaster shots cracked through the oppressive atmosphere, sizzling past in dangerously close proximity, each one a reminder that luck was a finite resource. Tessa worked frantically on her device, her focus unwavering despite the chaos unfolding around her. "Hold them off. I need a few more minutes." "Sure, no problem," Boomer shouted, sarcasm thick enough to spread on toast. "We'll just ask them to wait politely." "Yeah, maybe offer him some tea while we're at it," Ada grunted, taking down an alien with a precision shot that spoke of long hours and even longer battles. Rin directed their movements, voice calm amid the pandemonium. "Ada, cover the left. Boomer, the right. Jax, keep their focus." "Great plan," Jax responded, firing another shot. "Let's just hope they don't have a better one." The aliens weren't making it easy, their attacks more coordinated than a synchronized swimming routine at an intergalactic pool. It was clear these guys had done this before, and not in a friendly let's play tag way. "Anytime now, Tessa," Jax called out, ducking a projectile that would have given him an impromptu and very permanent haircut. "Almost there," Tessa replied, her device beeping with a frequency that suggested either imminent success or catastrophic failure. She wasn't entirely sure which just yet. "Well, whatever you're doing," Boomer said, "make it quick." "I'm running out of quips." "Good thing you've got ammo then," Ada quipped, though her focus never wavered from the advancing threats. Tessa's device let out a final beep and she looked up with a determined glint in her eye. "Got it, everyone think happy thoughts." "Happy thoughts?" Rin asked incredulously. "In this place?" "Yeah, like that time we didn't almost die," Ada suggested, though even her optimism was strained. "Or when my blaster's fully charged," Boomer offered, carefully picking off another alien. Jax considered his options. "Fine. Remember that time we won a bar fight and didn't have to pay the tab?" A moment passed, and then another, the air crackling with tension as Tessa activated her device. For a brief, surreal moment, the area was filled with a strange warmth, as if someone had switched on a cosmic light bulb labeled hope. The aliens paused, their movements faltering, confusion replacing malice on their faces. It was a strange sight, like watching a lion reconsider its vegetarian options. "Now," Rin shouted, seizing the opportunity with the precision of someone who had just realized their lottery numbers had come up. Jax and his team moved as one, a finely tuned machine of desperation and defiance. The aliens, caught off guard by the sudden shift, found themselves on the defensive, their advantage slipping away like sanity in a philosophy class. Tessa's device kept humming, its effects buying them precious moments as the Xyler's concoction of despair was countered, however temporarily, by a reckless injection of hope and joy. "This might just work," Jax said, almost believing it. "Keep pushing." The aliens hesitated, their confidence shaken by the unexpected turn of events. It was enough of a window for Jax and his team to regain their footing, pressing forward with a ferocity born of necessity. "Guess they didn't expect us to have a secret weapon," Ada said, her rifle speaking for her when words no longer sufficed. "Or maybe they just underestimated our charm," Boomer joked, though the intensity of the moment left no room for laughter. As the battle raged on, the tide slowly turned in their favor, the aliens falling back, their ranks thinning under the relentless onslaught. "You think they're calling in reinforcements?" Rin wondered aloud, ever the strategist. "Let's hope not," Jax replied, though he knew better than to rely on hope alone. Tessa's device continued its work, a beacon of fragile optimism in a sea of chaos. It wasn't a perfect solution, far from it, but it was something, and sometimes something was all you needed. "Keep it up, Tessa," Jax urged, his voice a mix of authority and desperation. Whatever you're doing, it's working. For now, Tessa said, her focus unwavering. But we need to keep moving. This isn't going to last forever. We never do, Boomer said, throwing a wink that was more grimace than charm. With the immediate threat abating, the team regrouped, adrenaline still coursing but tempered by the sobering reality of their situation. The Xyler watched, their screens hovering like vultures eager for the feast. "What's next?" Ada asked, her tone a mix of relief and readiness. Jax looked at his team, their faces a reflection of their shared struggle. "We move, stick to the plan. And try not to die." "Good plan," Rin said, her dry wit a constant in the uncertainty. "But let's hope they don't have better ideas." As they pushed forward, Tessa's device continued to work its magic. Though its power was finite, its effects a temporary reprieve in the Xyler's game. "Think the Xyler are enjoying the show?" Boomer asked, his irreverence a shield against the madness. "Probably placing bets on who drops first," Ada replied, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the next disaster. "Well, joke's on them," Jax said with a wry smile. "We're not going down without a fight." The arena's trials were far from over, but Jax and his team pressed on, each step a testament to their resilience and determination. They were still in the game, still defying the Xyler's expectations with every breath they took. "Ever wonder if we're just their amusement?" Ada asked, her voice laced with a hint of irony. "More like their test subjects," Rin responded, her mind always calculating the odds. "Then let's make sure we're the ones writing the report," Jax said, his resolve unyielding despite the odds. The arena loomed before them, an ever-present challenge that seemed almost alive in its malevolence. But with each step, each defiant act, Jax and his team carved their own path, proof that even in the darkest of places, hope and humor could light the way. "Let's give them a show they'll never forget," Tessa said, her device still humming with potential. "Yeah," Jax agreed, "because we're just getting started." And with that they marched on, each member of the team a vital piece of the puzzle, each step a challenge to the fates. The Xyler watched, their gaze unyielding, but Jax and his team refused to play by their rules, determined to survive on their own terms. The arena was what I'd imagine hell would be, if hell had a fondness for bright lights and obnoxious commentators. The Xyler were having the time of their lives, probably placing bets on which of us would croak first and laughing in their creepy, alien way. Our team wasn't exactly falling over with joy either. "Ah, smell that." Boomer sniffed the air, grinning as if he'd just stepped into a bakery instead of a battlefield. "Smells like despair and burnt alien. Or a Tuesday back at the spaceport," Ada chimed in, her rifle slung over her shoulder like an old friend. She sometimes thought about shooting. "What's the plan, Jax?" "Survive," Jax replied flatly. "And maybe find a new hobby." Their equipment was a mess, courtesy of the aliens, and a sabotage job that could only be described as enthusiastically thorough. If the Xyler wanted a show, they were getting one. A tragic comedy in 5 acts with a cast of overworked, underappreciated misfits. Tessa was nursing her device, the thing sputtering like an old engine. "This is bad," she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "Real bad. Didn't know you were an optimist," Rin said, her sarcasm as sharp as the knife she kept hidden in her boot. "Maybe we should take up knitting instead." Jax looked around at his team, their faces drawn and weary, and felt a pang of something he couldn't quite place. Regret? Nah, that was for people who cared about consequences. Maybe it was just that annoying human tendency to not want to see your friends die horrible deaths. "Hold it together, folks," he said, trying to inject confidence into his voice. "We've been through worse. Remember that time on Gorgon 6? Ada asked, because nothing staved off impending doom like reminiscing about old ones. "Yeah, when we got chased by those mutant chickens." "Good times," Boomer added, his grin as infectious as it was inappropriate. "Or that one time Boomer tried to pilot the ship drunk." Rin suggested, because why not dig up that old chestnut? "Hey, I was just recalibrating the autopilot," Boomer defended. "And we didn't crash. Much." It was that kind of banter that filled the dark void of doubt with a glimmer of something warm, familiarity, camaraderie, and a good dose of sarcasm. If the Xyler thought they could break human spirit with a bad meal and a worse venue, they were in for a surprise. Tessa was still fiddling with her device, her fingers working with the speed of desperation. I need more time to fix this. It's our only chance. Time's not exactly something we've got in spades, Jax pointed out, scanning the horizon for friendly, or at least less hostile faces. I know, Tessa replied, her voice tinged with a mix of frustration and determination. But despair doesn't fix itself, unfortunately. Boomer leaned closer to Tessa, nudging her playfully. I dunno, I always thought denial worked pretty well as a band-aid, or alcohol, Ada suggested. Preferably both, Rin said, peering into the distance like she could will their problems away with sheer willpower. A sudden explosion in the background, one of those cinematic ones that lights up the sky and makes you think you're in the universe's worst action movie, had them all ducking instinctively. A few pieces of debris clattered harmlessly around them. Looks like someone's having fun, Ada remarked, reloading her rifle with the kind of calm that came from years of living life on the edge. Must have missed the memo about this being a party, Jax grumbled. We need to get that device working, Tessa. Working on it, Tessa said, though the infernal contraption beeped and whirred in ways that didn't inspire confidence. Think the Xyler have a backup plan? Rin asked, her mind always 3 steps ahead, plotting and counterplotting. They always do, Jax replied. But so do we. He cast a glance around at his team, trying to project the kind of leaderly vibe that inspired hope, or, at the very least, a bit less hopelessness. Worst-case scenario, Boomer started, ticking points off his fingers. We die, they laugh, and we get to haunt this place. Best case. Ada prompted, though her expression suggested she wasn't expecting much. We live to tell the tale, sell the movie rights, and retire somewhere nice. Boomer shrugged. I hear beaches are good this time of year. Assuming there's a planet left with a beach that's not trying to swallow us whole, Tessa muttered, her focus unwavering. But Jax knew it was more than just the jokes keeping them going. It was shared moments, memories of near disasters that had somehow turned into triumphs. Despite the odds, they'd made it this far together, and that counted for something. All right, Jax said, rallying them with a nod. We're not dead yet. Let's see if we can keep it that way. Sounds like a plan, Ada replied, her voice steady. It's a plan, all right, Boomer added, his ever-present grin intact. Tessa looked up from her device, eyes meeting each of theirs in turn. I've got a temporary fix. It won't last, but it'll give us a shot. Good enough, Jax said, feeling that spark ignite, a tiny flame in the darkness. Let's make it count. The team moved through the arena with a newfound resolve. The Xyler might have thought they'd broken them, but the humans had a tendency to surprise. Think they're watching? Rin asked, tilting her head toward the hovering screens that floated ominously above. They're always watching, Jax replied. But let's give them a real show. The words hung in the air, a challenge to fate itself. The Xyler, with their twisted games, didn't understand human resilience. The stubborn refusal to back down, even when every logical bone in their body screamed to do just that. They moved in sync, each step calculated, each breath a testament to their defiance. As they pushed forward, the device in Tessa's hands hummed with potential, a fragile beacon of hope in a place designed to extinguish it. Let's make this quick, Jax said, leading the charge. Quick and painless, right? Boomer joked, though he knew better than to expect anything less than a fight. Quick, yes. Painless. No guarantees, Tessa replied, activating the device with a flourish that spoke of either genius or desperation. Maybe both. The arena, for all its chaos, was strangely quiet for a moment, as if the universe itself paused to see what these impudent humans would do next. Jax could almost hear the Xyler's disappointment as Tessa's device sprang to life, countering their despair-inducing nanites with a flood of stolen human joy. Hope this works, Ada said, her voice tinged with the kind of optimism that had no place in a place like this. It'll work, Rin replied, her gaze fixed on the enemy, already calculating moves and counter-moves. The device emanated a low hum, its effects rippling outward in waves. The alien competitors, once menacing, now looked confused, their aggression dulled by an unexpected onslaught of happiness. "I'll be damned," Boomer said, eyes wide. "It's actually working for now," Jax cautioned. "Tessa, keep it steady. We've got one shot at this." Tessa nodded, determination etched into every feature. "I've got it. Let's just hope it holds." The team advanced, the fleeting sense of hope propelling them forward. It was a gamble, but then again, their entire existence in the arena was a gamble. The Xyler thrived on despair, but Jax and his team were proving that humanity had a few tricks up its sleeve. "Think they are impressed?" Boomer asked, his usual sarcasm veiling genuine curiosity. "Not counting on it," Rin replied. "But they won't forget us." The aliens, confused and disoriented, began to scatter, their confidence shattered by the unexpected turn of events. Jax and his team pressed the advantage, every step a defiant push against the inevitability of fate. "Incoming!" Ada shouted, spotting movement from the corner of her eye. The team braced for impact, but instead of an attack, they were met with something they hadn't expected: a retreat. "They're falling back," Boomer asked incredulously, unable to hide his surprise. "Looks like it," Jax replied, though he knew better than to celebrate prematurely. There was always another twist lurking in the shadows. But for now, the tide had turned, if only momentarily. The Xyler's cruel game had been disrupted, the carefully orchestrated despair replaced by a chaotic blend of hope and uncertainty. "What's next?" Ada asked, her rifle still at the ready. "We keep moving," Jax replied, glancing around at his team. "And hope we're not walking into another trap." "Hope," Tessa said with a small smile. "Funny how that works." "Yeah," Jax agreed. "Funny." The Xyler were undoubtedly watching, their curiosity piqued by the unexpected resilience of their human prey. But Jax and his team weren't interested in playing by the rules. They were writing their own story, one step at a time. "Let's move," Jax ordered, taking the lead once more. And so they did, their path uncertain but their resolve unyielding. For in the cold expanse of the arena, in the heart of despair, they'd found something worth fighting for: each other. And that, in the end, was the real secret weapon. Jax watched as the team trudged through the chaotic arena, their movements synchronized in a way that suggested they were either really in tune with each other or equally lost. Frankly, Jax couldn't decide which was more likely. But there they were, making their way through the mess that the Xyler had so kindly provided, each step a testament. Nope, scratch that, too poetic. A reminder of how much they'd really rather be anywhere else. "Tell me again why we're not just sitting this one out," Ada muttered, her rifle slung casually over her shoulder, like it was a handbag and not a piece of hardware capable of reducing things to ash. "Because sitting around gets people killed," Jax replied, his voice an approximation of authority, which in their line of work was mostly guesswork and caffeine. "Keep it moving." "Yeah, because running around in this hellhole is a spa day," Ada shot back. "Next, you'll suggest we take a holiday on Vulcanis 9. Lovely this time of year, what with the lava flows and all." Boomer chuckled, that irrepressible grin of his doing nothing to help the grim vibe they were supposed to maintain. "I don't know, Ada. Could be worse. Remember that swamp planet? The one where everything tried to eat us, probably because you smelled like a buffet," Rin chimed in, always one to keep the conversational ball rolling, usually right over someone's toes. "Or maybe they just liked your perfume." "Ha ha, real funny," Boomer replied. "Pretty sure the Xyler would love that sense of humor, right before they nuke it from orbit. Which is why we need a plan," Jax interrupted before their banter got them all killed. "Something that'll shake things up a bit. That's where I come in," Tessa announced, holding up her device like it was some kind of holy relic. Well, in a way it was, if holy relics could be cobbled together from discarded alien tech and wishful thinking. "Oh, good. Tessa's got a plan," Boomer said. "I feel safer already. Do you want to hear it, or do you want to keep pretending sarcasm is a viable survival strategy?" Tessa snapped, her patience wearing thin. "Let's hear it," Rin said, stepping in before Tessa could throttle Boomer with her bare hands. "We're all ears. If this ends with us not being dead, I'm all for it. So, here's the deal," Tessa began, her fingers deftly adjusting something on her device that looked suspiciously like a bundle of wires held together by hope and duct tape. "The food supply is laced with nanites, right? We know that much. But what if we could hack them, hack the nanites?" Ada echoed. "With what?" A stern talking to and a strongly worded letter. "No," Tessa said, ignoring the sarcasm. "With this." She tapped the device, which responded with a series of encouraging beeps that suggested it might actually do something useful if it didn't explode first. "I've modified it to change the nanite's effect. Instead of inducing despair, we send them a jolt of happiness." "Wait, we're going to make the despair-inducing food make people happy?" Boomer asked, scratching his head like he'd just been told the sky was green. "Exactly," Tessa confirmed. "If we can flood the food supply with joy-inducing nanites, everyone who eats it, including our not-so-friendly competitors, will lose the will to fight. They'll be too busy having a good time." Jax mulled it over. "And how do we do that without the Xyler noticing?" "That's the tricky part," Tessa admitted. "We need access to their distribution network. Plug this device in at the source. It's a one-shot deal. Either it works or we end up on the wrong side of an alien barbecue." "Great, just what we needed," Rin said, rolling her eyes. "A mission that's either genius or suicidal. Hard to tell the difference these days. Life's full of surprises," Jack said dryly. "And if this doesn't work, at least we'll go out with a bang or a whimper," Ada suggested. "Depends on how it goes," Boomer laughed. "I'm betting on a bang. More dramatic that way." "All right, team," Jack said, bringing them back to the matter at hand. "We've got a plan. It's risky as hell, but it's better than sitting around waiting to be picked off. Tessa, how soon can we get this thing running?" "Give me a few minutes with their main terminal and we're good to go," Tessa replied, her confidence restored. "Minutes?" Rin asked, incredulous. "You're sure that's all it'll take?" "Look, I'm a last-minute miracle worker, not a time traveler," Tessa replied, her tone one of weary determination. "Just get me there," Jax nodded. "All right then. Rin, you're on lookout. Ada, cover Tessa. Boomer with me. We'll keep any unwanted guests at bay." "What about the Xyler?" Ada asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. "We'll cross that bridge when we're not being shot at," Jax said, "or we fall off it. Whichever comes first." They moved quickly, their footsteps echoing through the deserted corridors of the arena's backstage area. It was astonishing how much empty space there was behind the scenes of such an elaborate operation. A whole secret world, hidden behind the gaudy facade of the Xyler's twisted entertainment. "Anyone else feel like they're in a bad dream?" Boomer asked, his voice a whisper as they crept through the shadows. "I wish this was a dream," Rin replied. "At least then we'd have a chance of waking up." "Focus, everyone," Jack said, leading them toward the control room. "Tessa needs us to keep her alive, so let's not screw this up." "Your confidence is inspiring," Ada muttered, but she was already scanning the area for threats, her rifle at the ready. At the door to the control room, Jax paused, his hand hovering over the control panel. "Tessa, you ready?" "Ready as I'll ever be," Tessa replied, her fingers flexing nervously over the device. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a room filled with monitors, blinking lights, and an array of alien tech that would have given any engineer a headache trying to comprehend. It was, in a word, chaos. "Welcome to the heart of the beast," Boomer said, taking in the scene. "Let's make sure it skips a beat or two," Tessa replied, moving quickly to the nearest console. She set the device down, her fingers dancing over the controls with a precision that spoke volumes of her skill. Jax couldn't help but be impressed. Despite everything, they'd managed to put together a team that worked. "Keep an eye on those doors," Jax instructed as he moved to cover Tessa. "We're exposed here." "Thanks for the reminder," Rin muttered. "I was just starting to feel safe," Ada chuckled. "Has the arena finally broken you, Rin? I never thought I'd see the day." "Can it, you too?" Jack snapped. "We're not out of this yet." Tessa worked quickly, her expression one of intense concentration. The device beeped and whirred, its lights flickering in an erratic pattern that suggested it was either moments from success or catastrophic failure. "Almost there," Tessa said, her voice tight with tension. "Just a few more adjustments." "Well, hurry it up," Ada urged, her focus on the corridor beyond. "I think we've got company." "Great," Jax muttered. "Just what we needed. We've got this," Tessa assured them, though her voice carried a hint of desperation. "Just keep them off me for a little longer." The tension in the room was palpable, a living thing that threatened to engulf them all. Jax could feel his heart pounding, each beat a reminder of just how high the stakes were. Fail here and it was game over. But succeed there, Tessa exclaimed, her eyes lighting up with a mix of relief and triumph. "Got it." The device emitted a low hum, its signal spreading through the alien tech like a wave, corrupting the nanites' programming with a burst of human joy. For a moment, silence reigned, broken only by the faint sound of footsteps growing louder. "They're coming," Ada warned, her grip on her rifle tightening. "Time to go," Jax ordered, pulling Tessa away from the console. "We're done here." They moved quickly, retracing their steps through the labyrinthine corridors, the echoes of pursuit growing closer with each passing second. "Did it work?" Boomer asked, his voice breathless as they ran. "It's working," Tessa replied, "but we need to keep moving. The Xyler won't sit back and let this slide." "No kidding," Rin said, casting a wary glance over her shoulder. "They're not the forgiving type." Jax could feel the tension in the air, a heady mix of fear and adrenaline that kept them all moving. It was a feeling he knew well, one that had seen them through countless skirmishes and narrow escapes. But this time felt different. There was more at stake than just their lives. There was something in the air that tasted like hope, and it was intoxicating. "Keep it together, everyone," Jax said, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "We're not out of this yet." As they emerged from the shadows into the brighter corridors of the arena, the sounds of chaos began to reach them. The distant clamor of confused aliens, their aggression blunted by an infusion of joy so foreign to them that it left them dazed and disoriented. "Well, would you look at that," Boomer said, his grin wide. "They're losing their minds out there, better them than us," Ada replied, though there was a note of disbelief in her voice. "I can't believe it actually worked." "Don't jinx it," Rin warned. "We've still got to get out of here in one piece." Jax led them through the confusion, each step a deliberate move toward freedom. They had a chance, a real chance, and they weren't going to waste it. "The Xyler won't be happy about this," Tessa said, her voice a mix of triumph and trepidation. "Let them be unhappy," Jax replied. "It suits them." They pressed onward, moving through the arena with a newfound purpose. The device had worked, and the Xyler's carefully crafted game was unraveling. But Jax knew better than to count their victory too soon. There was still the matter of escaping the arena with their lives intact, and the Xyler weren't known for letting their prey slip away easily. As they navigated the maze of corridors, the sense of impending challenge loomed over them, a dark cloud that reminded them of just how precarious their situation was. They were close, so tantalizingly close, but the final hurdle was yet to come. The Xyler wouldn't let them win without a fight, and Jax knew that their greatest challenge still lay ahead. But for now, they had a plan. They had hope, and as they moved forward, leaving chaos in their wake, they carried with them the one thing the Xyler had never anticipated: the indomitable will to defy the odds and emerge victorious. "Let's give them a real show," Jax said, his words a promise, a challenge, and a declaration all rolled into one. They were far from finished, and the Xyler wouldn't know what hit them. Jax led the charge through the twisted corridors of the arena, the air a chaotic cocktail of adrenaline and malfunctioning alien tech. The Xyler's carefully constructed dystopia was starting to look like a clown show on acid, a sight that might have been hilarious if their lives weren't hanging by a thread. "Think the Xyler are onto us yet?" Boomer asked, barely dodging a low-hanging pipe that seemed to exist solely to introduce skulls to concussions. "Depends if they are as sharp as they think they are," Jax replied, casting a glance back at the chaos they'd triggered. Alien competitors stumbled about like drunks at a wedding, too incapacitated by joy to remember why they were fighting. But given their track record, I'd say we've got a head start. Rin snorted from the rear, her gaze sweeping the surroundings like a hawk eyeing up a particularly stupid rabbit. Their record ain't exactly spotless, is it? I mean, they didn't count on us being stubborn enough to screw with their little game. Stubborn. Ada chimed in. I'd go with suicidally insane, but sure, let's call it stubborn. Tessa, keeping pace just behind Jax, clutched her alien-hacked device like a talisman. This thing's still humming, so we've got a shot. Just keep moving and don't look back, right, because looking back will just remind us how insane this is, Boomer said, his grin a permanent fixture even in the face of impending doom. They rounded a corner, nearly colliding with a group of dazed Xylar guards. The aliens blinked at them, their expressions a bizarre blend of confusion and unwelcome euphoria, as if they'd just been handed happiness at gunpoint. "Excuse us, fellas," Ada said, raising her rifle. "We've got places to be." Rin didn't waste a second. "Heads down," she barked, dropping to one knee and firing off a burst of cover fire that sent the Xylar scattering, their joy-induced haze making them easy targets. "Easy does it," Jax said, motioning for the team to continue. "We've poked the nest. No sense sticking around to see if the Hornets get their act together." They pushed onward, the alien corridors growing more familiar with every turn, each step a calculated risk against time. The distant clamor of chaos echoed through the halls, a symphony of disrupted plans and disoriented aliens that was music to their ears. "So what's the plan when we get out of here?" Boomer asked, breathless but undeterred. "Join the circus, only if they've got a good benefits package," Tessa quipped, her eyes darting from the path ahead to the device in her hands. "But seriously, let's get out before we start planning our next career move. Assuming there is a next move," Ada muttered. "This kind of thing doesn't exactly leave room for retirement plans. Let's first retire from this mess," Jax said, leading them through another labyrinthine turn. "Then we can worry about the rest." The arena's exit loomed ahead, a tantalizing promise of freedom. But Jax knew better than to trust appearances. The Xylar weren't stupid, just arrogant. And arrogance often came with a few backup plans. "Expect a welcoming party," Jax warned, slowing their approach. "The Xylar might be down, but they are not out." Rin nodded, her fingers tapping a rhythm on her blaster. "They might have missed the memo on joy, but they won't miss a chance to punch back." Ada smirked, her grip firm on her rifle. "Well, in that case, let's send them laughing to their graves." They slowed as they approached the exit, peering cautiously around the final corner. As expected, a contingent of Xylar guards blocked the way, their expressions a mix of grim determination and residual confusion. "They don't look too happy," Boomer observed. "Good," Jax replied. "Maybe they're starting to get the joke." The Xylar guards, jittery and slightly disorganized, began to form a defensive line. It was clear they hadn't fully adjusted to their newfound emotional imbalance, still grappling with the concept of pleasure in a way that made them even more unpredictable. "All right, team," Jax said, the weight of their situation sinking in. "This is it. We hit them hard and fast." "Tessa, keep that device running." Rin, Ada on suppression. "Boomer, you're with me. Let's give them a show they'll never forget," Rin said with a wicked grin. The team surged forward, a well-oiled machine of chaos and defiance. Blaster fire erupted around them, the air thick with energy bolts and the acrid smell of singed metal. Jax led the charge, his focus on creating an opening, a path to freedom. Ada and Rin laid down a relentless barrage, their shots precise and punishing. The Xylar, caught between their training and their tampered emotions, struggled to maintain cohesion. Boomer whooped as they advanced, his blaster in constant motion. "This is what I call a party." Jax ducked beneath a stray bolt, returning fire with practiced precision. "Focus, Boomer." "We party when we're out of the frying pan." Tessa, the heart of their operation, kept her device operational amid the chaos. Her hands moved with speed and certainty, ensuring their joy-inducing wave continued to wreak havoc among the Xylar ranks. "They're breaking," Rin called out, noting the cracks in the Xylar defense. "Let's push through." Jax seized the moment, leading his team in a final surge. The Xylar line faltered, their resolve crumbling under the dual assault of human determination and a neurological cocktail they couldn't handle. The team barreled through, leaving the disoriented Xylar in their wake. As they breached the exit, the taste of freedom mingled with the thrill of victory. "We did it!" Boomer shouted, his laughter echoing through the corridor. "I can't believe we actually did it." "Don't celebrate yet," Jax cautioned, though he couldn't suppress a grin. "We're not out of the woods, just on a path through them." The arena was behind them, a chaotic memory of their defiance. But Jax knew their work wasn't done. The Xylar wouldn't take this lightly, and the universe was a vast, unforgiving expanse that held more challenges than they could imagine. "We've got a head start," Tessa said, the weight of their success evident in her voice. "But let's not waste it," agreed, Rin said, her eyes scanning the horizon. "The Xylar won't just sit back and laugh this off. They'll come after us," Ada added, her expression somber. "And they'll be angrier than a hornet's nest after a rock fight." Jax nodded, the gravity of their situation settling in. "We've bought ourselves time and maybe a fighting chance, but we need to keep moving." The arena receded into the distance, a testament to their resolve and the unpredictable nature of human ingenuity. They had faced the impossible and emerged intact, a feat that would be remembered in whispers and legends. As they made their way toward the spaceport, Jax found himself reflecting on their journey. They were a motley crew bonded by circumstance and defiance. Each had been tested, and together they'd risen to the challenge. "So," Boomer said, breaking the contemplative silence. "What now?" "We go find some other alien race to piss off." "I'd like to avoid that," Rin replied, though her tone suggested she wouldn't shy away from it either. "But who knows? Life's full of surprises. Surprises are good," Tessa said with a wry smile. "Keeps things interesting," Jax chuckled. "Interesting is one way to put it. Let's see where the stars take us." The team moved forward, leaving the chaos of the arena behind. Their future was uncertain, their path fraught with danger, but they faced it with the same irreverent spirit that had seen them through the Xylar's twisted game. In the end, it wasn't just about survival. It was about defying the odds, about proving that even in the darkest corners of the universe, humanity could shine through with grit, humor, and an unyielding will to persevere. As they approached the spaceport, the looming specter of the Xylar lingered at the edges of their consciousness. They'd made enemies, sure, but they'd also made a statement. The Xylar, with all their power and technology, had been outmaneuvered by a ragtag group of humans who refused to play by the rules. The universe was a vast, unforgiving place, but it was also a stage for those daring enough to challenge the status quo. And as Jax and his team prepared to embark on their next adventure, they knew they'd carry the spirit of defiance with them, a beacon in the endless night. "Let's keep moving," Jax said, his voice resolute. "We've got a long way to go, and I have a feeling the Xylar aren't quite done with us." Ada smirked. "Bring it on. They've already had a taste, might as well give them the full course," Boomer laughed. "Yeah, let's show them humans aren't just here to survive. We're here to thrive against all odds." The team pressed on, the stars their destination, their spirits unbroken. They were more than survivors. They were the embodiment of human tenacity and wit, and wherever their journey led, it was sure to be legendary. In the vastness of space, their story was just beginning, and as they ventured into the unknown, they did so with the knowledge that they'd faced the impossible once, and they could do it again. As they boarded their ship, Jax felt a surge of confidence. They were a team, a family forged in the crucible of adversity, and together they'd face whatever the cosmos threw at them. "Ready to go?" Tessa asked, her fingers dancing over the ship's controls. "More than ready," Jax replied, his gaze fixed on the stars. "Let's see what's out there." As the ship lifted off, leaving the chaos of the arena behind, they soared into the vast expanse of space, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. In a universe filled with darkness, they were the spark of defiance, the laughter in the face of despair, and the unwavering will to fight for their place among the stars. And so, with a shared sense of purpose and a healthy dose of irreverence, they ventured into the unknown, their journey far from over, and their story just beginning. The aftermath of their escape looked like a twisted symphony orchestrated by someone with a mean sense of humor. The Xylar, infamous for their hopelessness-inducing food and self-important arrogance, were experiencing the discomfort of an unfamiliar sensation: human resilience. Worse, they actually had to acknowledge it. Jax and his unruly gang were still basking in the unexpected glow of survival, the kind that comes after facing death and flipping it the bird. They had defied the Xylar for now, and the cosmos had decided not to swallow them whole. Yet, so, how does it feel to be an official annoyance to an alien race? Rin asked, falling into step with Jax as they boarded their ship. Like every family reunion I've ever had, Jax replied, eyeing the distant remnants of the arena with a mix of contempt and satisfaction. Except with more lasers and fewer casseroles, Ada, ever the practical one, couldn't resist a dig. Well, if this doesn't make the highlight reel of human history, I don't know what will. Boomer was busy checking the ship's systems, his face a mix of boyish glee and mischief. Hey, at least we made it out without being reduced to space debris. That's gotta count for something. Tessa was at her post, fingers flying over the controls with the ease of someone who could probably hack an alien device in her sleep. If the Xylar wanted to send a message, they sure as hell didn't expect a return to sender marked "no thanks." The ship hummed to life, its systems thrumming in sync with the adrenaline still coursing through their veins. The spaceport loomed ahead, a sterile contrast to the chaos they'd left behind. There'd been no official send-off, no parade, but they knew they'd left a lasting impression. More importantly, the Xylar knew it too. Jax leaned back in his seat, stretching out his legs with the satisfaction of someone who'd been running on borrowed time and had managed to extend the loan. So what's next? Leave a forwarding address for the Xylar in case they want to send a thank you card, Ada snorted. I'd rather leave a come again and we'll charge you for the second show note. Rin shook her head with a grin. Seriously, though, we've proven we're more than just a blip on their radar. Human emotions, as much as they're a pain in the ass, are our best weapon. Boomer chuckled. Think they'll put that on a recruitment poster? Join the fight, bring your feelings, doubt it, Tessa said, adjusting the ship's trajectory. But it's nice to know we've got an edge, even if it's just making them laugh themselves to death. The ship broke free of the spaceport's gravity, entering the vast, unending night of space. Silence settled over them, a welcome reprieve after the chaos, but it was the kind of silence that didn't promise peace. It promised more trouble down the line. The Xylar's acknowledgement of their victory wasn't something that came with fanfare or formalities. Instead, it came with a grudging respect, the kind that said, "You've won this round, but don't get too comfortable." And that was fine by Jax and his team. Comfort was a luxury, and they preferred their victories like their humor, dark and a little twisted. We've got options, Rin said, arms crossed as she surveyed the stars. We've shown we're not easy targets. Maybe it's time we think about making some friends out here. Ada raised an eyebrow. Friends? Or allies we don't completely piss off? Jax nodded, considering it. Allies, friends, a decent meal that doesn't make you want to hurl yourself into the nearest star. I'll take whatever's on offer. Boomer leaned back, feet propped up on the console. Allies sound good as long as they're not the stab you in the back while you sleep kind. Tessa nodded. I've had enough of betrayal quotas for one lifetime, thanks. The ship sailed smoothly through space, their destination uncertain but their purpose clear. They were more than just survivors. They were a beacon of stubborn humanity refusing to bow to an alien overlord's twisted game. Jax tapped his fingers rhythmically on his seat, a habit that had carried him through countless tense situations. We've got time to regroup, think things through. Maybe even figure out what the Xylar's next move might be. Think they'll be back?" Ada asked, her tone more curious than worried. "They're like bad breath," Boomer said, grinning. "They always come back when you least want them to." Rin smirked. "Well, if they do, we'll just have to remind them why underestimating humans is a terrible idea." The camaraderie among the team was palpable, a mix of respect, shared experiences, and the kind of gallows humor that kept them sane. They had faced down the Xyler and lived to tell the tale, and while the universe was vast and filled with potential threats, they had proven they could handle it. "Let's keep our options open," Jack said, his gaze shifting from the stars to his team. "We've got a taste of what's out there, and the Xyler's game isn't the only one in town. We need to be ready for whatever's next." Their victory, if it could be called that, was more than just escaping the arena. It was a declaration that humanity wasn't going to play by anyone else's rules. They might be small in the grand scheme of things, but they were damn significant in their own. "We're free, kind of," Tessa said, breaking the thoughtful silence. "Now we just have to stay that way." Jax grinned, a rare expression of genuine amusement. "Yeah, and if anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with our complaint department. I hear they are all tied up at the moment," Ada quipped, a smirk playing on her lips. Boomer laughed. "Yeah, they're a bit busy handling all the customers we ticked off." The ship continued its journey, the universe expanding before them like an open book filled with possibilities and pitfalls. They had faced the Xyler, stood their ground, and come out on top. Now, it was time to see what else the cosmos had in store. "Well, whatever happens next," Rin said, her voice firm with conviction, "we'll face it together. That's what got us through this, and that's what'll get us through anything else." Tessa nodded, her eyes on the stars, the endless expanse reminding them of how much they'd yet to explore. "Together it is." As the ship ventured further into the unknown, Jax felt a surge of determination. They'd proven their mettle against the Xyler, and while the future was as uncertain as ever, they were ready for it. Whatever came their way, they'd face it with the same irreverent spirit that had seen them through this far. The spaceport and the arena were behind them, the Xyler's attempts to break their spirit a distant memory. Ahead lay the vastness of space, filled with potential friends, foes, and plenty of mischief to get into. "Where to, boss?" Boomer asked, his voice tinged with anticipation. Jax shrugged, a mischievous smile tugging at his lips. "Let's follow the stars and see who we can annoy next." With that, the ship surged forward into the cosmos, its crew united by a shared purpose and an unyielding resolve. They were more than just a team. They were a force to be reckoned with, bound by friendship, tenacity, and an irrepressible sense of humor. As they sailed into the unknown, their story continued to unfold, a testament to humanity's indomitable spirit and the power of a good laugh in the face of adversity. The universe was theirs to explore, and they were more than ready to make their mark on it. In the grand tapestry of space, they were a small but significant chapter, a reminder that even in the darkest corners, light could shine through. And as they ventured into the unknown, that light was theirs to carry forward, a beacon of hope and defiance against insurmountable odds.